it was what was so beautiful about the whole campaign from 2013 till today, which I think in so many ways is a representation of this video. Modi in so many years is perhaps, at least as far as I remember, 98 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಟಲ್ ಬಿಹಾರಿ ವಾಜಪೇಯಿ ಅವರ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಜನರು ಅವರನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಸುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಇತ್ತು. And then from then we never witnessed a political leader being literally embraced by the people. And what we see in Modi, what we see in people's love for Modi, is that pure intent that we all want to see a better society, we want to see a better country, we want to see that this political system that we place so much immense faith in it actually works for the people. He represents this positivity. And I was on a debate during the campaign with Kannaya Kumar, and he went on saying A, B, C, D, these are not there in India, these are not there, this is not there. Well, it's true that we need to cover a lot of distance. Nobody is denying that, nobody is saying that everything is hunky-dory and things are all fine. But for far too long as a country, we have put our heads in cocoons of negativism. And what Prime Minister Modi did, which is why the title of this song is so aptly put, he injected a sense of positivism in the country. He said, and ಈ ಸತಿ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಲೈನ್ ಇತ್ತು, ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಅದನ್ನ ಗಮನಿಸಿರಬಹುದು. What was not possible is now possible with Modi.
Yes.
जो मोदी है तो मुमकिन है. Right? So he brought that sense of this can be done, this can be achieved, this can also take place. So he brought in that sense of positivity. And as a political activist, who first, people say, in 1970s, the emergency era, the emergency fight brought in a new generation of political leaders in the country, under the leadership or the umbrella of Jai Prakash Narayan ji. Whether it was Anant Kumar ji, Arun Jaitley, whether it was even Nitish Kumar, Lalu Prasad, all of these people became political leaders during the JP movement. I think 2013 and the next 5 years will mark such a critical phase in the country, where the Narendra Modi era will bring in a new generation of young political leaders in the country.
Yes.
And Bangalore South is just the starting point. Friends, Vinod was mentioning about how we started our work in 2013. There are so many of us who, we have worked together, Meenakshi ji, so many people from Namo Bharti team. When my candidature was announced, the reason why people of Bengaluru and people across the country rather felt so motivated, felt so thrilled, was because it is only in the BJP and it is only under a leader like Narendra Modi that efforts like what we did in 2013 as fellow citizen volunteering was actually recognized, and one amongst you was actually selected and said, even this work is actually recognized by the political system. And this, I think, is so critical in ushering in a new sense of political volunteerism in the country. This morning, our team and I, we were all discussing, what should we do in the next 5 years? At least, as it is, we keep dreaming, we need to do A, B, C, D. And now, with so much of things going on, non-stop, we have been thinking about we should do this, that. There was one thing that all of us kind of broadly agreed upon. the Gangotri of political corruption in India is electoral politics, is electoral corruption. If politics becomes expensive, and in India it has become so prohibitively expensive that young middle class people with otherwise meritorious backgrounds cannot dream of coming into politics. The reason is because it's so humongously expensive. But what Prime Minister Modi did in 2013 and what we are witnessing even to this day is he's brought in a new culture of political volunteerism. Let me give an example of how this campaign in Bangalore South stood out as an example of this political volunteerism. The very first day, from the day when we started the nomination rally, in addition to the BJP volunteers, BJP workers, a large number of volunteers came and participated. We issued a WhatsApp number and asked people to, register. In 48 hours, we had more than 8,000 volunteers registration. And it's a phenomenal number. And let me tell you what all these people did. Not only on the day of the polling, did they volunteer to work as booth chowkidars. Right? And mind you, none of them are full-time political activists. There were people accomplished like Vinod, like so many of you who are part of this team. They ensured that all of those booths in which BJP generally performs well, clocks maximum polling, they literally went out door to door, convinced people. If Bangalore South today, in comparison to the other two constituencies of Bangalore, so Central and North, if today we have clocked a 1.5 to close to 2% higher polling compared to Central and North, I have no hesitation whatsoever in thanking primarily these volunteers who ensured that this polling. There were so many of my people, friends, relatives, whose houses, whose doors you have tapped. And they would call me, or they would call my mother, or they would call somebody else. And they would say, sir, cognizantal kelsa ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಂತೆ ಆ ಹುಡುಗ ಅವರು ಬಂದಿದ್ರು ಸರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ. Do you know the difference it makes? ಸರ್ ಇವತ್ತು ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ ನಾವು ವಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಪ್ಯಾಂಫ್ಲೆಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ರು. The same thing that you mentioned, ma'am, earlier. Wearing t-shirts, dancing on the roads. It was a festival rather. And they would call and say, sir, ಎಷ್ಟು ಥ್ರಿಲ್ಲು, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜೋಶಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರು ಅವರು. And they were, and you know what happened? Because all of you did that, ಯಾವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ವಾಲಂಟಿಯರ್ಸು ಪ್ಯಾಂಫ್ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೊರಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ರಸ್ತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಲಿಟ್ರಲಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವುಡ್ ಕಮ್ ಹೂ ವುಡ್ ಸೇ, ಸರ್ ನಾವು ರೋಡ್ ಎಂಡ್ ತನಕ ನಾವು ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ನಾವು ಪ್ಯಾಂಫ್ಲೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ there have been so many instances where people have returned the pamphlets and said, sir, ನಾವಂತೂ ಮೋದಿಗೆ ವೋಟ್ ಹಾಕೋದು, ನೀವು ಬೇರೆಯವರಿಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗಾರೋ ಕೊಡಿ ಸರ್. And you also have experienced all of this.
Yes. Yeah, very much.
This was, and somebody came and gave us a data bank of calls, numbers, and said, sir, ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ South Bangalore numbers, sir, ಇವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ. And then obviously, like all of you, I'm assuming you all know that we were perpetually cash strapped for the whole campaign. So the more and more people came and supported, the less it was burdensome financially for the campaign. And numbers kotru. We had close to 4 lakh numbers, 4 to 5 lakh numbers. Now the challenge was how to ensure these 5 lakh people are called. How many people you need to call all of them? And then someone said, sir, there's a big call center in Kengeri, 250 or 300 people, just talk to them and they will do it. And then we reached out to them and then they said, this is the cost. I said, it's not possible. And then one of the volunteers, they suggested that let's do this. Most of our volunteers are IT professionals. Most of them, have proper day jobs. Why don't we ensure that 500 numbers are put in one place, in one Excel sheet, and we will ask volunteers to register for a phone-in campaign. And they can call these 500 numbers as and when they go to office, commute to office. Friends, you will be surprised. We had more than 1,300 people who registered to be call campaigners. What we did was, 500 numbers in a list madi, we sent it to them. Many of them Padmanabh Nagar dinda Manyata Tech Park ge hogak 1 hour agbekiತ್ತು ಅವರಿಗೆ. Or embassy ga golf links go Sarjapur go. Silk board route ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋರಂತೂ 1.5 ಗಂಟೆ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. They would actually call on the way.
Yes.
And they would finish on the way back, 1.5 hours, they would make some more calls again. I mean, it was incredible. So, it was sorted. And I still remember HSR layout alli ಒಂದು campaign ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. I started talking to people, namaskara ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, we were walking around. And then, because HSR is a very cosmopolitan population, it has both North Indians, Kannada people, Telugu speakers. There were so many of them who had come in the morning walkers, joggers. And each person I would meet, I would say, sir, namaste, auntie, namaste, uncle, namaste. They would not only wish me good luck, because they would have come for a morning jog, they would just carry some 20, 50, whatever, 100 rupees with them, because perhaps they would have wanted to go and have a cup of coffee after the walk, or herbal juice outside the aloe vera or some wheat grass juice or whatever outside the park. By the time we finished the campaign, both of my pockets were full. Because the aunties, uncles, the people who were there, they would give 20 rupees, 50 rupees, 100 rupees, whatever they had. They would literally thrust it in my hand, and then I had to once actually clear the whole 2 pockets and be ready for round 2. So, that's the kind of love I received everywhere. And that's why I think the title of this song, coming back to this, means so much. A whiff of fresh air. That's what we want today. And that's what Prime Minister Modi did in 2013. And you know what's the greatest thing about him? You can be fresh once. But if you're Modi, you can be fresh always. The popularity he had in 2013 has only increased in the last 5-6 years.
Yes.
Many were asking me, especially people in the media, 2014 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸೋ ರೀತಿ ಹವಾ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ 2019 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Right? You may also have heard about this. I said, in 2024 you will not even see this much. Because people have already decided in 2014 they had to come out and convince a few others. In 2019 they're all ready, they're all just waiting for 18th. They were waiting to go and do their jobs. And you know what was the best part? On 18th, the day of voting, when people started tweeting their voting pictures and everything, there were 2 things that remained a constant in their narratives on the photographs. The first was, this is my thank you for what you did in the last 5 years. 2, boss, I have done my duty.
Exactly.
The next 5 years is again in your hands.
Yeah.
You know, these were the two common things that we saw.
Yeah.
To all those people who say democracy is in danger because of Modi, well, if today India is witnessing its highest percentage of voting ever, it is thanks to this man. If more and more number of people are today engaging with the political system, more and more people are coming out and voting and participating in the system because now they feel they can trust this system. How can you ever call that man a danger to democracy? It's illogical, irrational. If today the most common man feels, to be very honest, I was watching Vinod and Iksha in the campaign. I must place this on record here today. Vinod sometimes gets really pesky, okay? But you know why he does that? Because he cares. Because he comes every day with 100 new ideas. And he is not satisfied with the effort that we generally put because he wants us to do more. To be very honest, Vinod, I don't know if you remember it, but I do. During our campaign in Govindrajnagar, it was a scorching heat that day. And I was standing on that, open jeep. And I was wondering, God, the whole 20 days of the campaign, we barely slept for more than 3.5, 4 hours. Because we would start at 5 in the morning and the meetings and everything would wind up only at around 1:30, 2 in the night. And then I was so tired, my legs were about to just give away. And then I saw this Vinod. Okay, he was there on the street wearing this NaMoAgain t-shirt. And that t-shirt was so damn wet, okay? Because he was constantly going from this shop to that shop to this shop to that shop with pamphlets in his hand, talking to each person, telling them that you should do this, this, that. And then he would look at me and then he would smile and then he would go again. Why is he doing this? Because he trusts that this system can work for the betterment of all those people to whom he distributed the pamphlets. And that's the faith that all those, volunteers of Namo Bharati, the volunteers of Namo Bharat, Namo Warriors, there have been such incredible amount of organizations. So many apartment associations people came together this time. And they said, we all want to campaign and volunteer. The challenge today, personally speaking, is to ensure that this freshness remains intact and fresh. And I think there's a blessing. The blessing is that because most of the seniors, most of the elders see me as their own, see me as, someone as old as their daughter or son. They have the authority and the moral obligation to correct me when I go wrong. When someone stands up and says, always be humble, it's a lesson. When I have gone to houses, when I have spoken to so many people, the kind of faith they have placed and the kind of hope, the kind of freshness that they see is very overwhelming. At the same time, so many of you have corrected me, even during the campaign. But again, some people said, why are you wearing Western formals every day? Why don't you dress in, kurtas? And then once I said, okay, I wore a kurta one day. And they said, why are you wearing kurtas? Like a typical neta. You were nice yesterday in denims and white shirt. Go back to that. So, it was fun. It was fun to talk to all of you. It was fun to listen to all of you. The best part was the blessings that I got from each house that I went to. there's only one thing that I would want to ask all of you before I conclude. I was speaking about political volunteerism earlier. We need to make elections less expensive. And elections can become less expensive when people who do not depend on the doles and payments of political parties for their livelihoods start participating in politics on an everyday basis. One of the things that our team and I were discussing today was, in the next 5 years, we will not get a constituency like Bangalore South to experiment this for the country. We should ensure that a new breed of political volunteers are built, are groomed. People who have good day jobs, people who earn for themselves, people who earn well, people who support not only their families but also take some financial responsibility for others around them. People who can give 1 hour or 2 hours a week for political activism. Because we have so much of work to do. We have our lakes to protect, we have our lakes to rejuvenate, we have our traffic issues to solve, we have our solid waste management issues to be sorted. Our drainage system in Bangalore literally is, from the British days. It literally is from the British days. So many parts of Bangalore, ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ the 1800s ಅಲ್ಲಿ, early 1980s, ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ 1890s ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕಿರೋ ಡ್ರೈನೇಜ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ. Though these are not technically the role or the job of an MP to address, but as a society we must all take active interest in all of these things. I would like to request with all of you just this much and hand over the mic to the organizers. 2014 witnessed a very, very important start in political activism by the middle class. And 2019, at least insofar as Bangalore South was concerned, was a major driver of the campaign. Let this not end now. Let this not end on March 23rd. If any of you have any ideas, maybe using a tech platform, maybe using, because it is humanly not possible to personally talk to the whole constituents, everything. If you know any ideas of how we can ensure there's an institutional mechanism put in place, which will, rope in volunteerism, which will ensure that political activism on a weekly basis is done at different places, it will be a phenomenal political experiment. And my dear friends, it does not need a prophet to predict that what we are seeing in Bangalore South today will be the model that we need to replicate around the country in the next 10-15 years if we have to have a healthy and vibrant democracy. So we should start today. And let's start here on a positive note. Let us start here with a whiff of fresh air. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I request Krishna Somaji, sir, to give the momentum.